What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for being here with me on Astrology Motivation. Today, we're going to go over the very important astrology that's going to be impacting us for quite some time. We're going to start with the North and South Node. What are they? What do they mean? And how are they being impacted right now by Chiron and Venus? We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the transit of Mercury into Aquarius and what does Mercury in Aquarius mean? What kind of energy does it generate? And then we're going to get into the quite poignant Mars conjunction to Pluto that is building up this week as well. What does that mean? How it will impact us? And then, of course, the the new moon in Aquarius that's going to be happening on February 9th, what it is setting up for us, the kind of energy it's going to generate, and what other aspects are going to be impacting how it impacts us. So let's get into it. First, take some time, if you haven't yet, to subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell so that you know when I upload content that is interesting to you. There's a lot of content that I come up with every day here talking about astrology, sometimes zodiac specific predictions, lots of cool stuff. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so that you get notified when I upload content that you would love, hopefully. So let's get into it. I'm looking at the chart here. I'm going to try to find a way to share the chart with you. This is February 9th's chart, but I know right now we're a few days before that. I'm making this video on February 5th. I don't want to say this is for the week of February 4th through, because it's not. There's a lot of energy that I think is speaking to what is to come, and I just want to talk about why the astrology is important. So first and foremost, what are the nodes? So what does the North and South Node represent? The nodes are really just demarcations. They're not actually planets or asteroids or objects in the sky. They're demarcations of the axis of the moon and how that is interacting with the location or with the current rotation of the Earth. So the nodes will transfer between zodiac signs about every 18 months. And in terms of astrology, what they do is they key us into different areas in our lives where we have to be made aware of what is subconscious, what is it that we kind of do on automatic without even knowing, without even thinking about why we do it. That would be the South Node. And then the North Node is where we are totally conscious, totally intentionally taking action, and we are sort of molding and shaping our own experience. We're contributing to our own existence with intent. Now, the reason why I paused on the South Node is because the South Node isn't like Neptune. It isn't where your Neptune is. It isn't your 12th house. It isn't mystery, because the mystery is like kind of God interacting with us, and different things can come up that we'd never even imagined and that was not part of our past life. Maybe it didn't even exist until a second before. This represents the part of our lives where, even though it's subconscious, we have experienced it, whether it was in a past life or whether it was early on in our life. We've experienced it, but we experienced it to the point where we're not conscious of the experiences anymore. We've just let those experiences mold and shape what we think reality is, and especially what we think our reality is, like who we are. Oh, this is just something I accept about myself because of course it's this way. You don't even know what you don't even know when it comes to the South Node. But you can get access to it and become conscious of what you were doing subconsciously. And a lot of times, like I said, this is based on just things that we've accepted to be true because of our experiences as kids, because of what we absorbed as children, or sometimes what we have bought in from a past life. And you don't have to believe in past lives to really understand the importance of the South Node and the North Node, because it's representative of those things that even from childhood We don't even know that we're doing it because we thought, well, this is reality. And the truth is, reality, there's so many facets because of so many people on this earth with different perspectives that are experiencing reality from different perspectives. So the truth is, the South Node is that part of us that kind of runs on automatic. And then the North Node is that part of us that is very conscious and very intentional and very much, I'm going to make this out of myself. So the South Node currently is in Libra. So the zodiac sign that the South Node is in will speak to the areas of our lives or the experiences that we've had that we've become subconscious with, that have impacted us subconsciously. So Libra rules partnerships, especially like long-term intimate partnerships. It rules fairness, it rules justice, it rules equilibrium. And so the South Node is there. Like what the South Node asks us now then is, in terms of our subconscious, like what can we now start to realize we subconsciously bring into the consciousness, like bring consciousness to the subconscious by saying, what did we just accept was true when it comes to partnership realities, what is fair, what is right, what is decent? What did we just sort of assume it, we just accept it? Or these patterns or comfort zones that we've fallen into because, that's just how it's always been when it comes to partnerships. And then on the other side, we have Aries, which is where the North Node is. And the North Node is begging us to say, our truth, what we know, what we are consciously aware of, what we've taken action on, not just what we care about because we care about it, but because we've put effort into it, because it's important enough for us to say, this is what I want to construct. This is my understanding of me. And really, this is very personal since it deals with the moon. It really isn't about your impact on society. It's you and how you've impacted yourself and how you have gone about contributing to who you are as a person, like who you really are, what has been decided for you, which is the South Node, and what has been your conscious choice to decide for yourself, which is the North Node. And the North Node is in Aries, and Aries is all about singularity. It is all about individuality. It is all about the sense of self and who you are. So for the North Node to be in Aries, this is really powerfully saying, who the fuck are you? And who have you made yourself to be? And who, compared to what you think you have to be for things to be okay, or what you were told you have to be, which is pairing up individuality, pairing up into partnerships, being in partnerships. And what can the conscious North Node, what kind of consciousness can the North Node bring to the subconscious South Node to make us realize, hey, we don't have to do these things anymore. We can pull ourselves forward, because the North and South Node are actually not separate things. They really represent the journey of our growth and development as people, as individuals in our lifetimes. So essentially, the South Node is where you begin, where you were made by something else, by your past life, those experiences that you brought in, or by your family and all the subconscious stuff you absorb just by, being a sponge from the time when you're like an infant to 10 years old, right? And then the North Node is, okay, but what do I want to make myself? And by having the two constantly kind of exchange information, you can start to break down maybe what doesn't work for you anymore, or what wasn't really true from the South Node, wasn't really true, but instead you accepted it as true because it is true because you didn't know that it was other choices. But it's like, now I have infinite amount of choices. I get to write my own script, and that's really North Node energy. And really structuring about the self. I get to determine who I am. Not my parents, not the partnership that made me, or me thinking that I have to be connected to partnership somehow to exist or have meaning, right? Or even just what I have just subconsciously accepted was right or wrong when it comes to partnerships, and how can my individuality and my quest for a stronger sense of self bring consciousness to my south node, the south node in Libra, to partnerships, and make me realize, no, they don't have to be this way. What am I running on automatic with when it comes to partnerships versus, maybe how am I hyperactive, or how am I contributing to who I build out who I am based on nothing else but my choices and my interests. Now, so that's South Node of Libra and North Node in Aries. We have Chiron that is conjunct to the North Node. And that's tough, dude, because Chiron's all about restrictions to teach us lessons. And so parts of ourself, developing ourself, like efforts that we put toward creating who we are, who we want to be, are now being extra restricted and like beat the shit out of, like we're in boot camp. Oh, you want to be this? You want to be that? Well, I'm going to make it extra hard on you. So it's very difficult time right now when it comes to being able to assert your independence and who you are and be what you really want to be. Chiron is making it a real son of a bitch to do it. Now, the reason why I'm talking, because this week I'm talking to you about this, is because Venus, now last week Mars was square to the nose. So if you were trying to take any kind of action, maybe even physical activity, could have brought up a lot of sickness, because it's all about this competition between what just happens to us without our control versus what we want to control and what we want to be able to do. But can we? How much are we being tugged back? And those squares represent challenges too, being able to be more conscious and take more action and have more control over our own existence. And then we have, so there would have been conflicts over the past couple of weeks because Mars was square to the North and South Node at that time, was also square to Chiron. So that deals a lot with physical injuries. That would have been what held us back. And then now we have Venus. Now, Mars and Venus are both now in Capricorn. So Venus in Capricorn is a very actually serious energy. It's very unlike her, let's say. She's very luxurious and she's a very sensual energy. That's at least she likes to be. But in Capricorn, it's all about restricting that and using that only where it's important. It's very economic. It's very matured and maybe a little bit too tight-necked. But Venus takes things very, very seriously when she's in Capricorn. And she is now, this whole week leading up to this new moon in Aquarius, and right before Mercury has gone into Aquarius, the transit of Mercury into Aquarius, Venus is square these frickin' nodes. Now, what does that mean? Well, the square means that there's challenge here. There's friction. So a square in and of itself is a restriction. But then you have the added restriction of Chiron conjuncting that North Node, making it extra, or us making it extra difficult for ourselves, or being extra hard on ourselves. Like we have to do it perfectly for everybody. Like maybe we have to pull all this weight. But what does Venus represent? Well, Venus is not just romance. I keep hearing everybody talk about love and relationships. That's really not all Venus is. She represents value systems, which includes finances. Hello. So with Venus in Capricorn, which is already quite frugal energy, I mean, frugal in terms of doesn't like to spend money. If she's going to spend money, she's going to spend it on something extraordinarily bougie. So she'd rather have quality over quantity when she's in Capricorn. And she will squeeze pennies to buy that $5,000 pair of boots. But understand, not just the ones that are going to be on Vogue because they're popular. No, this would be the boot in Capricorn. What she spends money on is the stuff that's going to last. Like, I'll spend $5,000 on a pair of boots because I know that they're going to last me for the next 20 years as long as I take care of them, because they're built sturdy as fuck and they use all the best materials. And they're going to be comfortable. It's not just something that's going to make me look sexy and come home with blisters all over my feet. Capricorn is too grounded of an energy for that. It's got to be both It's got to make sense, it's got to be practical, and it's got to last and be quality. So Venus is now squaring these nodes. So if you guys are experiencing this whole energy of financial restriction, not being able to buy the things that you want to buy, the quality, maybe having to settle, or coming up from your past, where have I settled? And maybe where have I settled too much, to the point where now I'm working with a lot of crap and I can't even really use it, versus, maybe I need to start being more discerning with the things I buy or the quality that I give to other people in my life. If you're seeing that there's a major restrictions here, this is really going to be a week of major triggers for a lot of people economically, because you're not going to be able to do what it's going to be really conscious. Think that North Node conjunct Chiron, you're going to be real conscious what you can't do, or based on maybe you don't have the money for the quality and you hate being put in that position, or you're not being valued yourself, or you don't feel valued yourself. You feel like there's all these restrictions, or people are undermining you, or not treating you or giving you the salary you deserve, or giving you the attention that you deserve. And it's not that you wouldn't be right. It's that you're being challenged. And the reason why you're being challenged is, look back at the South Node. Where have I slacked off? Where have I laid back? What have I just accepted and did subconsciously that now needs to be made conscious, because I see what difficulties it's causing me. So this is a real shit-eating period of, it's not very prosperous, of a lot of crap. Maybe I need to be more aware of what I had settled for, or the decisions that I made, why I made them, as opposed to, so I don't have to make the same mistakes again. This is what squares try to teach us. This is what Chiron tries to teach us. It's like, I'm going to make it difficult for you until it snaps and you realize, crap, you were the one really making it difficult for yourself. It's those external lessons that come to us to teach us how we need to grow up, which is really the journey between the South Node and the North Node. And because so much of this energy is in Capricorn, which is the maturation, the mature, the ruler, the patriarch, the grown-up energy of the zodiac, it's saying, where you need to put your big boy, big girl pants on, and realize that maybe you do need to wait, and maybe you do need to save, and stop spending money on stupid shit, and instead wait for the right one. And that's going to take patience, and that's going to take tenacity, and that's going to be hard as fuck, because your belly's going to be crawling through the mud. But don't settle, right? Make sure that this is not something that you continuously settle for just to be cushy or cozy, including partnerships. Because Venus does still impact partnerships. Where have we allowed our romantic sensibilities to keep us in a partnership that is really more of a fantasy than a reality that we actually value, or where we're actually valued? And how has my settling for these partnerships restricted my independence and my individuality? And not just my feeling of independence, but what I can actually do with my life. Where have I landed myself obligations because of these comfort zones that now are too cumbersome for me to actually go out and do the things that I wanted to do, because I'm not free to do them, because I have all these obligations because I thought I was supposed to. So a lot of this is also trying to teach us where the garbage dump has to be, what we have to get rid of. And those are very tough questions as well, because nobody wants to make anybody else unhappy. But do you want to be unhappy yourself in order to maintain other people's happiness with your efforts and your energy? So we're being asked a lot of those questions right now. And that's what first, like last week, Mars square the nodes was restriction of action, not being able to take action, maybe even getting sick, where we're really starting to see, oh wow, like now I'm totally vulnerable. No, I can't make any movements or do anything. This is not a real quick moving period in our life right now. This is you better listen up and look at these lessons. And after this, you better make decisions that will enable you to make truth decisions, quality over quantity decisions. I know you might want something fast, but where have you settled in order to get it quick? You know, maybe you have a lot, but do you have anything that's really worth anything to you? All of these questions are coming up, and so it will be a very frustrating time right now, especially jobs, work, career advancement. Very, very difficult time. Challenging, difficult, and it's going to push all our buttons right now. Now, another thing that's particularly interesting is that while this is happening, Venus is trine to Uranus. And Uranus is all about independence. So Venus certainly, so basically what they're trying to do is work together to make us more independent by showing us just how shitty it is to not be able to be independent at all. To be dependent on people, to be pushed around in the waves, to be in a place where we've let so much go and be decided for us that now we got nothing to grab onto, and how scary that is. And certainly that's what I think the hard lesson is that's happening right now, and you're going to feel it especially in your partnerships and your pocketbook because it's Venus. Now, let's move on to our next topic of discussion, which was the transit of Mercury into Aquarius. What is Mercury in Aquarius? Well, it's sort of social talk. It's social announcements. It could even be like hive mindset. So you have to be aware. It could also be being very skillful with crowds, especially through communications. Interestingly enough, this week or at the time of the new moon, Mercury will square Uranus. Now, Mercury and Uranus are kind of higher and lower expressions of each other. Uranus is more like the brilliant mind and the outward ingenuitive thinker, and Mercury is more skill, like what can we do, practical approach, day to day. But it's all intellect and communication and understanding through intellectual means. So the fact two of them are square creates a little bit of friction there when it comes to, especially because they're in fixed energy, when it comes to oh, I see. When it comes to, once again, I'm going to go back to this quality versus quantity. So Uranus is in Taurus, and that's all about innovating, or maybe even some ways resurrecting traditions that we had thrown away when we really shouldn't. It was almost like recycling and repurposing. And Mercury in Aquarius is all about popular talk, popular chatter, maybe even a popular trend. I can't say anything more about this, except I've been thinking about this a lot. And clearly this was before Mercury went into Aquarius. But that whole Stanley Cup craze, you guys know it. I'm sure you've heard about it. I'm going to do a video on it, why I think it's significant. Because it's very interesting. There's always frickin' crazes. You know, like when Pluto was in Capricorn, what became one of those crazes was those long nails, you know, that Cardi B always wore with all the crystals, and, you know, all like adorning, gawky and stuff. But they're not very practical at all, which is interesting because Pluto in Capricorn would be destructive of practicality. Well, it's interesting. The reason why I think it's interesting is because you now have Pluto that's moved into Aquarius. And it's so much more about the hive mindset, absolutely. But it's also about, it could be in its best sense, this sense of I want to use the right words. Purging the toxicities from our communities and from even our pop culture. And I thought it was really interesting that a Stanley Cup was what became the next craze. Because it's not a pet rock or a new television set or a new car. It's something that is actually quite practical. It's a cup. It was a cup that was made for working people, like manual laborers, so that it would be tough and it would be resistant. And the reason why the whole Stanley Cup became so popular was because of a video that went viral that demonstrated this is a cup that withstood a fire that melted the rest of the car around it. So where we were coming from a place that from a mentality, a social mentality of just being so toxic and how wasteful we'd become, suddenly now there's this reemergence of appreciation for something that was built to last. And that's what's popular, because that's what people are craving. They crave what they don't have, and what we don't have is integrity, especially of goods. We lived for at least the last 30 years in a disposable society, whereas Stanley has become popular because you're never going to have to buy another Stanley Cup in your fucking life. You don't need the Valentine's Day version, because the version that you bought for Christmas is going to last you 50 more Christmases. It's really interesting how quality is now becoming what we crave, when for all this time we've just lost track of that. And that really is Uranus in Taurus, making us remember something that traditionally we let go of. But it's like resurrecting it and recycling it, saying, here, surprise, guess what you shouldn't have thrown away. Even on the corporate sense, Stanley is, I think, a privately owned company. They've been privately owned for like 130 freaking years. They weren't one of these new startup companies that are how people have been doing business for at least the last 20 years, where, you brand yourself just to make yourself candy enough to make yourself really, really sweet so you can sell to the highest bidder. It's not about lasting. It's just about making yourself sexy and selling and getting that big instantaneous gratification payout. That's what most startup companies do. And that's why we've led to situations like, say, Blackstone that owns everything now, because everybody was for sale. But Stanley came from a time when nobody was for sale. When you built products that you were proud of and you wanted your brand to last for the next 100 years, and you didn't want to sell out to the highest bidder, you wanted to stand up against the wind. And so that's all of a sudden, as Pluto enters Aquarius, what's become popular now. And I think it was really, really interesting that what people are starting to value is what we lost value in years ago, because that's what they're craving now. And interestingly enough, people are starting to crave more traditional ways of running their household, of both parents not leaving the house, but one staying behind and raising the kids, which is much more traditional. But I think Uranus in Taurus is begging us to say, which tradition should you not have thrown away? Because a lot of times that's what we do. We throw the baby out with the bathwater. We really shouldn't have done that. And as Mercury goes into Aquarius, I think there's going to be a much brighter, tangible consciousness to now what society needs. An awareness, an actual conscious awareness of what is popular, why it's popular, and we're going to be really surprised as to what those conversations are as Mercury is in Aquarius. There's a lot of talk. A lot of social talk. Things could spread like wildfire. Not just rumors, but also ideas. But because it's very grounded with that square to Uranus, I think we're going to be really surprised at what the trends are that are coming out. And that's over the next couple of weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks, so Mercury will be in Aquarius. Then we have this really... we should be aware of it. This conjunction that's coming up between Mars and Pluto. What the hell does that mean? Well, Mars is the planet that rules in terms of astrology. It represents energy, our energy systems, our vitality, and how we take action, how we go about doing things and getting things done. Not intellectually, but in terms of actual physical momentum and action. And Pluto, of course, represents metamorphic change, which is evolutionary change, changes you're not going to come back from. So total destruction of what was, to pave way or make healthy soil for what needs to be. They are both malefic energies, and they both rule Scorpio. So if you guys are Scorpios, watch the fuck out. Watch the fuck out. Especially Scorpio ones, dude, because Mars and Pluto, by February 9th into the week afterward, they're going to be square to your natal suns. And when Mars squares Pluto, there is war, destruction, taking things to the extremes, physical extremes, sexual extremes. I mean, it's like someone on steroids on crack. I know. I hope I don't get flagged for that. That was just like a metaphor, but that's kind of what it is. It's like somebody on steroids on crack, and they're just gonna fucking it's like the Incredible Hulk, and they're just gonna pound through everything, and that's the kind of energy Scorpio ones. So those of you born between, say, October 22nd and October 25th, especially, that are just gonna I mean, you're going to have impact, but it could also create a lot of tension and a lot of injury. So please watch out, especially you guys as well as Leo ones, because that's going to be quite impactful when Mars conjuncts Pluto. That's just tremendous. And that's over, like I said, that's like February 9th through probably the 15th when this conjunction is happening. So Scorpio ones, Leo ones, and Taurus ones, especially, because you guys will be square to that as well. That's going to be ridiculous energy that could really easily get you injured and cause you to react in extreme physical ways, depending on how it plays out. Taurus, I don't want to get into it if I can't get into it in detail, but I would say that the vitality is going to be really, really high. The virility is going to be really, really high, and the risk of injury is going to be really, really high, and we can actually start to see some major deconstruction because of violent words or actions that start to happen, especially in crowds, since this is all happening in Aquarius, through crowds, because of crowds, uprisings, rebellions, all of that could really take place over that week because Mars is going to be conjuncting Pluto. So that's definitely something to watch, especially personally if you're born between, say, March 22nd, March 25th, July 22nd, July 25th, and October 22nd, October 25th. You guys especially, because that's who will be predominantly impacted by that. And of course, I'm sorry, Aquarius one. So January 22nd, January 25th, 26th, around that time, because that's where Pluto is, and Pluto's going to hit. I mean, Mars is going to conjunct Pluto. So that's very, it's like to me, it's like war zone. That is like warlord energy. That's the mentality of it. Okay, I just want to make sure. The next thing I wanted to talk about was this full moon. This full moon, Jesus. I'm sorry, it's not a full moon. Let me go back. It's the new moon. I misspeak a lot, guys. I'm so sorry. So I'm just going to, stream of consciousness toward you. This new moon on February 9th is in Aquarius. It's at 20 degrees Aquarius. So Aquarius 3s, those of you probably born around, I don't know, the 11th to the 13th especially, are going to be impacted by this new moon. But this new moon is going to be square to Uranus. So all the tension of what is getting in our way of becoming the version of ourselves that we want to be is going to come out. It can make this moon very emotional. This new moon is trine to the South Node. and square to Uranus and sextile to the north node. If it's trine to the south node, it's going to be sextile to Chiron in the north node. What I think is going to become very evident now is we're going to start to see a switch and maybe even a little bit of release. It's almost like the boom that needs to happen before we can actually get anything done and move these immovable forces. And I do think that after the 9th, especially after the 15th of February, we're going to start to see a lot of release. Of course, then Venus will come and eventually conjunct Pluto. But I think it's this new moon. Now the new moons are when we welcome things in, when we start new cycles. And of course, this cycle will end in 6 months later in Leo season when there's full moon in Aquarius. So this is setting us up till then. New moons, when the moon conjuncts the sun, this is when those both aspects of ourselves, who we are really and who we've decided to be. So the ego is who you've decided to be, and that's what the sun represents. And the moon is who you really are, or all the subconscious energy of what you don't even realize or think about unless you have to. But that kind of stuff of who you are. And when the moon and the sun come together on the new moon, it's why we can make such good and bold moves to welcome things new into our lives, because that's when it's most clear what is right for us. Because both those aspects of ourselves are in synchronicity. The fact that it's square to Uranus means that it's kind of being probed and pushed by restrictions to our individuality. And that's our new beginnings and decisions of what we need to let new into our lives are going to be sculpted by those feelings of being restricted, or not feeling like you're free enough, or have the ability to really be where you want to be, so who you want to be. And so we're going to be really welcoming into our lives those things that excite and support our independence. So that, with the conjunction of Mars conjunct Pluto, this could be quite explosive energy, personally and community national wise. Absolutely. So this chart is, I think there's a lot of stuff that's happening that isn't that is big. That is really big. I know it's like, should I make predictions about what could happen globally? No, to be honest with you, I'm just not good at that stuff. I'm like what country might explode, what a war might happen. I haven't done that work to share with you. I haven't. Really, what I've been trying to do is just see how it's going to impact you. And we are going to be triggered. And what we're going to want more than anything is our independence, our ability to be who we want to be at all costs. And anything that is restricting it, we're going to get so mad that we're going to find the energy somehow to realize, because this involves the north and south node. The south node may be how we've let ourselves into this, and what we have to change about ourselves in order to be able to really live and be who we want to be out loud. That's the discussion that I wanted to have with you, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Definitely leave the comments below. Definitely tell me what you're thinking about this. It's going to be a week of a lot of perspective changes. You want to talk about changes? It's perspective changes. Changes in perspective, changes in what we value, changes in what we're willing to allow in our lives, and how upset we're going to be if the things that will upset us most are the things that tell us you can't be who you want to be. And those things are going to come in money and obligations that we've had through our partnerships, or on the tail end of feeling like we're too sick or too disabled to be able to do it. Like, where have we been handicapped? Either actually, physically, emotionally, psychologically, or socially. So you let me know. Let me know. I'm gonna air this video. This is straight talk with you guys. I'm sorry that I didn't do it on the live. I probably should have. But really, this isn't a discussion. People always want me to leave timestamps. Y'all, this isn't. I'm not a fucking. I'm not a goddamn horoscope astrologer, right? I'm not about predicting what you're gonna do with your fucking boyfriend this week. Like, this is about higher consciousness, understanding of your own soul. And then you fucking choose what you're going to do with your boyfriend this week, if you even want the motherfucker still. You know what I'm saying? Because there are a lot of pressures on here that are going to make us question, do we want what we thought we wanted even a week ago? Because why did we want it? And do we still value it? And when we are awakening to finding the strength to make ourselves into what we admire based on what we love and we care about, does that even pertain anymore? What I had settled for, because it was easy and it was accessible. And we're going to be awakening to that. So there's going to be a lot of challenges and changes because of perspective and value changes that happen personally. And on a global scale, yeah, I think that we're going to start seeing a transition back to, ironically, more traditional values, but not the ones that restrict or oppress, but the ones that actually help us expand and grow by giving us roots. I'm going to leave you with a statement that Venus Williams said. It was an interview with her, and was it Venus or Serena? I believe Venus. So she had said, somebody was talking to her about, I had posted it on my Instagram feed. Somebody was talking to her about discipline. And she said, I think discipline is freedom. Because only if you are truly disciplined can you be who you want to be and accomplish what you want to accomplish. And that is 100% knock it out of the park true about how she has become so successful. Discipline, sacrifice, all of which Capricorn teaches us, Chiron teaches us, a Taurus teaches us. Maintain what you have. Like, what's wrong with the sustainable stuff? What's wrong with the stuff that's built to last instead of the garbage we just throw away? Like, these are issues that Pluto and Aquarius is going to be addressing the whole time for the next 19 years, 18.75 years. It is going to be in Aquarius from this point on. It is going to be addressing those issues of why have we thrown away concepts that actually kept us healthy and enabled our expansion, as opposed to disabled it? And how have we clipped our roots to be sort of this more transient and spontaneous community, as opposed to one that actually, and then ending up with things that never grow, things that die immediately, things that are thrown away before they were practically even used. All of that kind of materialism and all of that kind of energy of just sort of bring back those moralities or those ethics that should not have been thrown away are going to come back up. And they're going to really point out a lot of how wasteful we've been. And Pluto's going to, I don't think, going after the kings and queens this time. I've made this whole prediction. I've done a video on it. Go watch it. I'll attach it up here. I think this time Pluto's coming after the people who make up the community. And the people who have contributed to the toxicity of the community is not necessarily that king that's oppressive now. It's us and our entitlements and our expectations that have found a way to oppress us. And so why do we need to change that? Why do we need to build more things like Stanley Cups that are going to last forever, and our kids are going to be able to inherit, instead of trying to make one sale after another of a cheap product. Make an expensive sale out of a product that's going to last for years, so that we do actually clean up our oceans. And we do actually, because hello, all of this is trying to motherfucking Neptune. Sextile. Pluto and Neptune are sextile. So you know it's got to do with cleaning up the motherfucking oceans. I'm just saying. Like the devil is not external this time around. And the fact that Pluto entered Aquarius with a full moon in Leo, the devil is not external anymore. It's the devil within, and the entitlements within, that are really going to start breaking apart, and that our future generations are going to really work on and see and make definitely different choices than we had made. Because what once liberated us has now burdened us and trashed us, because we went to the extremes. And you know, it's the hardest thing is just to not go back to the other extreme, right? No, but I think this is the counterbalance of Pluto in Aquarius 220 years ago, right? And so now we can actually find that balance that we were so missing last time, because so many things had to change in an extreme way. That's my take on the situation. I hope you guys have enjoyed my take. This is Astrology Motivation. I love you guys for being here. Share this video if you think it would be interesting to other people as well. I brought up a lot of topics and talked about a lot of aspects that, you know, will be true in different signs as well, but at the same time, they're all coming out now. And we need to talk about it and be aware of it. I love you guys. And feel free to leave your comments below. Bye.